Welcome back to the B&E show. How are you doing, Emily Z?
I am doing good.
Here,
It's been a while. It's been a while, but it feels good to be back in the hot seat.
It does. So I am super excited to talk with Emily today because she is going to be interviewing me because Bill's busy right now. Otherwise, he would be the interviewer because he's way better at this than me. So
today we're going to talk about public speaking and pitching. And public speaking and pitching from either a webinar stage or a formal stage, and just webinars in general are a huge part of our marketing and our business here at S&B. So today we're going to kind of run through 7 tips for either public speaking or pitching. So Ben kind of has some important points here that he's going to hit on. So Ben, what is your number 1 tip when it comes to public speaking?
the number 1 tip, and just to qualify myself a little bit, I did door-to-door sales for a little while, and I am currently an elder in my church congregation. So I get up and speak in front of people every quarter or so, deliver to about 200 people on a regular basis. So that's a little bit of credentials for me, right?
Super celebrity.
Pretty much. You're like, it's a privilege to know me, basically. Anyway, so the number 1 most important thing that you can do before you stand up rather for a public speaking address or for pitching is to have absolute conviction in whatever it is you're teaching, all right? And the reason for that is for multiple reasons. One, it's easier for you to go up and talk about something that you love. I mean, how many people in the Philly area love to rave or rant about the Sixers or the Eagles? I mean, it's cities burn based on the conviction that people have.
That
here
is
in
an
Philly.
unfortunate truth. City Hall gets torn down.
Legitimately, okay? And the reason that people are able to have conversations with complete strangers in a topic that is passionate to them is because they're passionate about it. You don't care what the other person thinks of you, and their judgments don't matter. So having that conviction in your topic and in yourself and the knowledge that you have, that's the first step that you need to take and understand about yourself before you get up and do anything. If you have even the smallest sliver of doubt, people aren't going to listen, and the reason why is because that doubt affects you at a physiological level. It affects your micro expressions, like the way your eyes move up and down, the genuineness of your smile, the breathing patterns that you engage in. All of those small, subtle cues from a physiological perspective convey doubt and disinterest. And if you're conveying those feelings to other people, why in the heck should they be listening to you? And they're going to turn off. They're going to pull up their phones and just dismiss you as another boring speaker. I know I've done that at conferences, right?
Yeah.
She's probably done that with me.
No, that's not true.
Oh,
but that brings us into a good next point, right? There's things that you physically have to do to your mental state and just your physical state of being to A, calm yourself down, but B, when you calm yourself down, it's important that you're calming the breath down because it calms the speech pattern down. Right?
That's exactly right.
So let's talk about that.
No worries. So, like Matt Abraham said in one of our interviews, check it out in the description. He talked about how, for a lot of people, public speaking is a fear, a deep-seated fear that they would rather choose over car crashes, holding a spider, drowning. Like, this is one of the top fears in the whole freaking world, right? And so one of the things that he suggested that you do, that I heartily recommend, is to control your breathing patterns. I actually want you to do something with me, Emily, real quick. Just go. Just deep, fast breaths, deep, short breaths, okay?
In through the nose, out through the mouth?
It doesn't matter. Okay. Doesn't she look like she's a little scared or coming right out of a horror movie?
Yeah.
See, the point...
I feel my heart rate picked up.
That's exactly right. And so that's what breathing controls. It controls the amount of oxygen that you intake to your body. And the faster you're doing it and the deeper bursts you are, the more panicky, the more energetic you get. And all of a sudden you're twitching out and you have no idea what you're going to do. And see how my voice is going higher? But when you're in that slow, controlled, kind of relaxed environment, what you're conveying to your body and to your audience is that this is the safe space. This is the B&E show. You don't need to be afraid. This is where 2 awesome friends are talking with you about cool concepts. So for me, when I'm breathing nice and easy, it changes my body chemistry and I'm able to relax, able to get those sentences across without stuttering, which is actually something that, I don't know if you know about this about me, but I actually have condition for that. When I'm
Really?
excited. Yeah, when I'm nervous or unprepared, I stutter real bad.
Really? I've never heard you stutter.
That's because I'm supremely confident in everything I say and do.
Well, that brings us kind of to our next point, right? So when you are feeling nervous, right, how do you begin? How do you start? What are some good tips for anyone that's watching that can start either speaking from stage or public speaking to their team? How do you kind of get started?
Oh, it's a great question, because the real trick is engaging your audience as fast as you can. And there's two ways that you do this. One is you can learn from comedians. And two, you can actually engage the audience's interests through this particular trick. Would you like to know how to conquer your fear of public speaking for once and for all and never be afraid again? Do you really want to engage your audience so that way they buy more of your product or service? Well, let me tell you exactly how. I don't know if you caught that, but I used.
I'm buying.
I highly doubt that. But what I did is I used 2 qualifying questions in order to engage my audience's attention. So that's the first thing that you can do. The second thing is to start off with a good joke or a fun story that exposes a laugh. And the key is to get the first 3 to 5 minutes of your public speech memorized. It's the only thing I ever memorize in any of my public addresses, whether it was door to door or whether it's coming from a pulpit. I always memorize the story I'm going to tell, the questions I'm going to ask, and the funny hook that I want to offer. So, in the B&E show, I do this through awkward, body expressions, weird tones of voice or facial expressions. That's how I choose to engage or elicit that laugh from the audience.
It kind of breaks down that third wall, right? It breaks down the barrier, it breaks the ice, it makes people feel comfortable and ready to open their ears and engage and listen. So.
100% true. Now, the other thing that I like to do in order to engage is to use a specific voice pattern here. All right. So, if you haven't checked out Eminem's music video, "Lose It," I think it's one of the most popular music videos.
Yourself.
See, we've got Bill doing a rendition.
The moments, won't it?
You stopped. Anyways, go back and listen to that song. I want you to think about how you feel. When you're doing your high intensity fitness class and you got your earbuds in, put that song on and notice the change in your energy from the beginning of that song towards the chorus. And the reason for that is he uses different kinesthetic tones to increase the energy that you feel as a listener. He starts off slow, kind of intimate, where it's more of him telling a story, and then he starts to pick up the pace. And all of a sudden, you gotta lose it and move it. And then as the beat drops, he hits into his chorus line, and he's hitting you with all the things that you need to do, and you better move it in this moment. And otherwise, that opportunity is gonna pass you by, and you're gonna be left sitting in a trailer park puking on mom's spaghetti, right?
It's true, yeah.
So I don't know if you noticed that, but did you feel the difference from the beginning of when I summarized Eminem's song to where I told you exactly what would happen if you didn't?
Yeah.
And that's a vocal trick that you can use in order to control the emotions that your audience is feeling.
So the next thing is kind of, how are you staying in control of the crowd, like controlling questions and not controlling it in the sense of you're contorting the things that people ask, but kind of maintaining control over the crowd, because people can throw random questions at you that can throw it off wrench. And how do you kind of stay on track? Yeah,
so that's actually a great tip. If you're doing a public speech where there's a Q&A session and you want to know how to control it, there's a couple of tips. If someone's asking you the question, before you've come to the conclusion, what you can do is just pause, say, "Hey, I see that you have a question. Let me finish what I'm saying here, and I'll get back to you." So that's the first thing you can do. The second thing is when the chance for you to engage the question and they ask it, do this instead. Instead of leaning in to try and catch the question, actually walk back out. And the reason for that is this: instead of putting your focus onto that individual question, by stepping away from the person asking it and kind of putting your arms out like this, you're encompassing the audience into that question. So after they ask that question, you restate, you step back, you say, oh, that's a great question. I love the way you phrase blah, 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 blah. And then you step back in. So what that does is it causes the audience to lean in a little bit as well. So that you've included them in the question by stepping out, and now you're coming back in to answer that question. Then you answer the question. And if it's something outside of your expertise, don't lie. Please don't. Please don't pretend to be something you're not, because people will pick up on that. And that feeling of disingenuity will completely invalidate everything that you said at that point. So that's the first thing I would say for questions. Now there's another trick here for controlling the audience's engagement, all right? And it's quite simple. It's acknowledgement, okay? So you'll see Bill do this a lot during masterminds. He'll ask people a question, right? And he says, put yes in the chat, right? And that's really important because there's a saying, what you hear, you forget, right? What you see, you remember, but what you do, you understand. Okay. So particularly in public speech, in a public setting, or in a place where you're giving a keynote, they usually have a notepad or something because they're ready to write notes, right? And so what you'll do is you'll actually ask for the audience to write down an answer. For you, example, dear audience, what are some of the things that you've already taken away from the speech? Thank you. Okay, now see what I did there was intentional. Whether or not they did it, for the people that did, I am thanking them and acknowledging the action that they should have taken.
I gotcha.
And so what that does is by acknowledging their actions, you create engagement and it creates a small little reward circuit. They've taken the action and they're now receiving a thank you.
I think that getting audience engagement is the most overlooked part of public speaking, especially public speaking from webinars, because it's hard, right? You're not sitting in a physical room with people where you can see their facial expressions and how they're receiving the message, and maybe you said something that rubbed someone the wrong way, or maybe you said something that had a really great impact on someone. So asking for that engagement virtually is so important, and I think Bill does a really good job of that, to
Yes,
your
he
point.
does.
So then talk to me a little bit about, I wouldn't say being a credible source, because that's almost a given, right? But how do you ask the audience or get buy-in from the audience and earn the right to speak to them?
Oh, perfect question. And it really comes down to this wonderful acronym that I call WIIFM.
WIIFM.
Would you like to know what WIIFM stands for?
I would like to know what WIIFM stands for.
Fantastic. What's in it for me? WIIFM. Can't go wrong as long as you are constantly showing why the audience should pay attention. They do not care about you. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That's just the harsh truth.
Very true.
You will never be as important to your audience as they are to themselves. And so you need to constantly, throughout the course of your public speech or pitch, show them why listening to you is beneficial to them. And you need to validate that multiple times throughout the process or throughout your speech, all right? And so that can be something as simple as communicating a point and demonstrating some credibility behind it and then telling them the benefit, or, and what would be better in my opinion, is to use a story to showcase this.
Yeah. Now there is something to be said about embedding your own story into your speech, right?
100%.
Embedding your own story so your audience understands that, hey, I'm just like you, and here's why. Whatever you're trying to teach them, I overcame this, you need to overcome this is how I did it, right? But then you need to back that up with why you care about that individual, and then focus the rest of the conversation on the external, the other person, whoever you're speaking to.
That's 100% right. So I love how you brought it back to tying in your own story, because if you don't have that heart story, like the other video that we recorded, remember that?
Yes, how can I forget?
So if you don't have that heart story, people aren't going to have that personal connection, and they're just not even going to care about the benefits that you could be offering them.
Well, Ben, where could people get a framework to create their own heart story?
I'm so glad you asked, because in the description below, you can get your own heart story framework worksheet.
Love it.
It's going to be awesome. It gives you a step-by-step guide on how to communicate your heart story and how to flesh it out, so that way you can tell people and they will see you as the authority or as the person to listen to. This is the B&E show, killing it with the specialized business advice that will take you to the next level. We call it the S&B team effect.
He just hit his funny bone. Did that hurt?
A little bit.
We'll come on the phone with everyone. Good old Andy Stickle.
Andy
Stickle.
Oh yeah.
These two legends are legendary public speakers.
Oh yeah, you're on video for public speaking. It's almost like getting instant drama. You know, it's like the car crash you can't look away from, but only in a good way. I think. I don't know. Is that a good way? No.
Well, thank you, Ben, for sharing your amazing tips on public speaking.
You're welcome.
If you wait, let's go. If you like this video, like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe. I'm not a good singer. You're a good singer.
Like and subscribe.
So maybe you should take that part.